Hello YouTube, this is Chris for the HandyGuard channel with a little how-to video showing you the manner in which I mounted my flat panel LCD TV. And that's a good look at the TV, the perspective of being here at the table, and a little kitchen area in the RV, and in the back is the bathroom and some bunk beds in the floor plan of this RV, and on the other side is the sleeping area. So I wanted to be able to see the television either from the dining table or from farther back. You know, if I was laying in bed I could watch it as well, which meant that up in the corner here, which is pretty much the only other option I could see logically to mount the TV, would not work, because then I could not see it from the kitchen table. Now, I also wanted to accomplish a little flexibility with the mount, so I did not use a fixed clip or hanger type mount. I used an articulating arm, which allows it to come out and pivot or swing quite a bit from side to side. And that's utilizing the off-the-shelf standard run-of-the-mill articulating arm with one elbow joint, if you will. So the only thing you have to do to be compliant with whatever, you know, to match whatever model you have, you just have to check the model number of your TV against which mount is appropriate, and you get a bracket that fastens to the TV. And then the whole TV and bracket usually hang on the end of the arm. And the other end of the arm, I think I'm going to unplug a couple of the lines here just to make it easier to see. So now there's just a power and an HDMI cable plugged into the TV. The other end of the arm is the mounting foot or plate, which in this case has three. My camera's having a little focus issue, so let me get that out of the way so you can get a reasonable focus of it and some more light. It has three mounting points, three holes in the mounting bracket. So the issue here was, and since my LED flashlight is kind of strobing on you, I'll try not to use it any more than I have to. I just wanted to show you an example of a toggle bolt so you can see physically the thing that I'm talking about. You'll find them in the hollow wall anchor section of your hardware stores, and it's simply a spring and what's often also called a butterfly bolt that allows you to fold it up. You have to drill a hole big enough for that to fit easily into, and then once it clears the wall as you shove it in, it springs open, and then you pull it back against the back side of the wall by tightening down the bolt. And as you screw it down, the bolt pulls that butterfly toggle tighter and tighter on the back of the wall. See, it's running right up the bolt, and it'll continue to be pulled in by the bolt until it's up against the back of the wall, and it stops, and whatever you've got out here on the front is pulled tightly against the surface of the wall. So you do want to take into account the total length of the bolt. If you have a clearance issue, which I did, how much room do you have behind the bolt, and if you cut it off, will that still allow you enough length on the bolt to shove it all the way in? Because when it's collapsed like this and you shove it in the wall, you have to have enough clearance here so that it goes completely inside the wall and will then spring open. So you have those two measurements to calculate, so that when you shove it in, you got enough room and it can open up, and then when you tighten it down, you don't have too much excess bolts sticking through that might collide with something if you have a depth restriction. And as I recall now, I did have to trim mine down to the exact length that I had to work with. It was pretty close, very close tolerance between the bolt being too long, or if I cut too much off the bolt, when it was folded up, I couldn't shove it in the wall and get enough unused bolt to allow it to spring open. So it was just doable with a nice big 1/4 size bolt and the biggest size toggle butterfly available, so you get maximum holding power before you'll have a pull out. So there you go. That's the toggle bolt, butterfly bolt, hollow wall anchor that I used on my TV mount. And of course, probably your biggest expense is going to be that fancy metal TV bracket itself, whether you choose a simple hanger that doesn't articulate, or you get one like I did that pulls out, gives you a little bit of adjustability and flexibility. So there it is again, folded up flat against the wall, and has the ability to pull quite far away. I could swing it out here if I wanted to, to have a different view angle of it, or it gives me a few options, and then collapse back out of the way when not in use. Okay, here's a static view while I come over and kind of show you a little bit about how it looks and some of the other particulars to mounting it. And one of the reasons I chose this location was also because of its proximity to power, which is back in the corner over the refrigerator, and where the cable would come in if it was on a cable from outside. So you can see the back of the TV here. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, that's a little better. And knowing where the bracket mounts on the TV, as well as how big the television was, told me how far off the wall to measure. And that way I knew exactly where the bracket itself had to be when it's collapsed and folded up against the wall, in order to lay out the footprint of the plate, the mounting plate. And that allowed me to locate the 3 holes where they needed to be. Before I mounted this piece of plywood, which is nice and solid, I drilled a very small hole through the paneling with like a 1/16 inch drill bit to probe, in order to see how much empty space, how much clearance I had behind the paneling. And that told me how much room I had to insert a toggle bolt, so that it would have room to go all the way in and then flip open, spring open. That's very important, or you won't be able to get a toggle in and deployed, and then so you can tighten it down. And of course the other concern is that when you tighten the bolt, the bolt goes in as it pulls the toggle out against the back side of the wall. So if you have a clearance issue, as I did, the bolt had to be sized exactly the right length to allow me to get the toggle in and let it spring open. And then when I tightened it down so the bolt would not hit the refrigerator on the inside, it had to be shortened up a little bit. So I had to cut it down a little bit. That allowed me to find out where to put the 3 holes, and they had to be pretty sizable, like 3/4 of an inch diameter, to clear a big toggle. These are 1/4 bolts, which I didn't want to have any concern about pulling out. And these are just some little spongy type holders to hold the arm in place when I'm traveling, because I take the TV off for traveling and put it back in its original box. And you can see it actually sticks out a little bit beyond the refrigerator, because I wanted the largest viewing area that I could comfortably live with. And since the seat here sticks out a little bit beyond the refrigerator, you can't walk right by here and hit the TV, and so it worked out just fine. So that's basically it. There's my TV mount. Add a piece of plywood, screw it down in many places to distribute the load, calculate your fastener requirements and placement, and you can mount a flat panel TV, pretty sizable one, fairly heavy, on an articulating arm in a hollow wall that doesn't have a lot of strength where you may need it to fasten the mounting plate to. And it's worked out really well. I had no issues, no problems with it. So there you have it. That's my flat panel TV mount in my RV.